Hello, Jono.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Not been sleeping much and been stripping wallpaper all afternoon. So yeah, bit cooked.
I don't think England's doing really well, needless to say.
Yeah, I think that's the headline to start with, isn't it? It's been a disappointing few days to be England fan and for the English team as well. Since we last recorded, things really turned on their heads quite severely. The third day's play that first morning, Australia bounced England out, and Harry Brooks' shot was, I guess, it captured exactly what was going wrong that innings for England. And then we saw Australia pile on the runs, get up to a big lead, and then England started bouncing them out. So, one, it was good for England. They actually bowled Australia out for relatively minimal score. It could have been a lot worse with when Smith and Khawaja were occupying the crease. They could have been there for a long time.
Then there was this change of tactics where they started bouncing Australia out, and surprisingly, Australia didn't handle it that well. For most of the test match, Australia batted under what is usually considered as more difficult of conditions. There was a cloud cover, the ball was hooping around a bit, but still they kept scoring until England said, okay, we're going to only bowl short pitch deliveries. I think in those 4 hours, they only bowled one pitched up delivery, and that was also like towards the end. Like, so for 4 hours, it was so predictable that it's only going to be a short pitch delivery. And none of the Aussie batters could actually play that as convincingly as one-legged Nathan Lyon could towards the end. Okay, everything is going good for Australia, but one thing that I was perplexed at was the way Pat Cummins or Australia, they sent Nathan Lyon down there. They added, 16 runs or something?
Yeah,
I think
15
it was
or
a
16
joke.
was.
I think that was a joke. People were like, oh, this is so brave. No, that was absolutely stupid and painful to watch. Ricky Ponting said, when Australia was like 310 runs ahead, Ricky Ponting at that time said even that is good enough for Australia to win the test match. And as you're going to see, England won't be able to get to 300. They won't get there. So I don't know what was going through Pat Cummins' head. Just to put it out there, yes, the results are going Australia's way, but Pat Cummins is not turning out to be the captain of yesteryears that came out of Australia. He's very defensive, gets the deep point. Joe Root came on to bat. Mitch Starc was moving the ball a mile. The way he got a Pope out, that, by the way, are you a fan of Mitch Starc now? Did you watch that dismissal?
I haven't actually seen it, no. It was that was the middle stump cartwheeling one, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, but it's a beautiful shape. Like, because his wrist position is so beautiful. Reminds me a little bit of Wazimakam, but he's taller and lankier. His ball, when it shapes in, that natural in-swinger, like it pitched on middle and off, and it came back in. I think it hit the leg stump, maybe the middle stump, but that shape at that pace, 90 miles an hour, and it's swinging in. And the one after that was Duckett. He was given LBW. That was a very similar delivery, but obviously him being a left-hander, he was given out, but because it moved so much, it was just missing off stump, so the decision was overturned. So that's the beauty of Mitchell Starc, the why we like Mitchell Starc. I know you were talking about some of his statistics. If you take out night test matches wickets or tail ender wickets, then his stats are pretty mediocre, to say the least. But again, the 90 miles an hour is the fastest in the test match. And that late swing, sometimes when he's on song, it's unplayable. Those two deliveries were unplayable.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he also picked up the cheap one of Zach Crawley gloving it down, was it inside it, down leg side,
Yeah,
which
that
I
happens.
mean, it's the two contrasts of Starc there, the ropey stuff that gets just lucky wickets and then the freak deliveries that are absolutely unplayable. But to come back to Nathan Lyon, I've gone to bed by that point, but how I interpreted it was that Nathan Lyon knows he's going to be out for the rest of the series. It may well be his last Ashes series, certainly in England, I would think. So perhaps against everyone's advice, particularly medical staff, but not least Pat Cummins, Nathan Lyon went out there to bat for himself. He wanted one last go on the fields.
That's so
in
stupid.
England.
They should have said, no, sorry, we don't need you. We're not going to have it on our conscience if you actually make it worse than what it already is. we're not going to do this. This is just stupid. I can understand. I think it was 2009 or 10. Graham Smith went down there against Australia in Australia with a broken hand.
That's
They
right, yeah.
needed something like 20, 30 runs or something. Okay, the whole test match is on the line. Okay, I get it. He was literally on one hand. He could not, and then he got bowled by Mitchell Johnson. I get it. In that case, yeah, but it wasn't needed. That's, to me, if Nathan, did you read it somewhere, or you were just speculating that Nathan
I'm just
Lyon?
speculating there.
Okay.
Just speculating.
If Nathan Lyon went there on his own, then that's like just, oh yeah, look at me, I'm trying to be a hero. If Pat Cummins sent him down there, then I think that was pretty disgraceful as well. That you shouldn't be injuring or risking further injury to your players, someone as important as Nathan Lyon. But anyway, but again, I think that he might get away with it because Australia is going to end up winning. When you lose, that's when the microscope is pulled out and everything is watched. But anyway, moving on, assuming Australia wins this test match, do you think, even though the series is not lost, do you think there's going to be major shakeup in the third test match? I think Jimmy Anderson, I don't know, Jimmy Anderson you reckon we're going to see some players getting dropped for the third test?
I think dropped is the wrong word. Rested is
Oh.
probably more appropriate. Jimmy doesn't often play in English summers, certainly when the game's this close together. Jimmy won't play all 4 tests, or in an Ashes series, all 5 tests. Certainly not the 40-year-old version of Jimmy Anderson. So yeah, Jimmy will be taking a break. I think we're off to Headingley next, aren't we? England will be looking. They will definitely be getting a spinner in the side because Headingley takes spin traditionally. So yeah, there will be, even if he is not fully fit, I suspect that Mark Wood will be playing in the next match. Josh Tunn has looked really good.
He'll be all right.
Only his second test, but I think he bowled 9 overs on the bounce yesterday and short deliveries as well, which is hard on a bowler. Even though he's not bowling it too well, Ollie Robertson also put in a big spell, as did Stokes for the first time this series. He did one of those old sort of Ben Stokes type spells where he bowls for an hour and a half.
He didn't look threatening to me, though.
He didn't look threatening, but he helped stem the runs. Australia stopped scoring.
Yeah, but that was the short ball tactic that they kept doing. Okay, it was difficult at that point to score, so we get it. That's something that everyone's going to work on, but he did not look threatening at all. Jimmy Anderson, sometimes when he bowled a short one, had a tennis ball kind of bounce off the pitch, but Stokes did not. He looked like a filler bowler to me. But I guess he's a captain, so he's not going to be dropped. Anderson, Broad ended up taking 3 wickets, 3 or 4.
4 wickets, I think.
He ended up doing all right, so he might retain his spot.
Yeah, it depends.
Or not rested. Sorry, not rested.
Not rested. Yeah, it depends on how he's feeling fitness-wise. Certainly in the 4 years ago in the 2019 series, he bowled all 5 games, but that's mostly because Jimmy Anderson went down 8 overs into the first test. So Broad had to lead that attack. So yeah, I suspect we will see Broad play. I think England will be desperately searching for the fastest bowlers they can find now, because the Australians have looked, the least comfortable they've looked is at the short, fast stuff. So England will probably be looking around. I suspect we'll see Rehan Ahmed come in. I don't think they'll play Mo again, Moeen Ali. They might. I don't know. I think it's a 3-day turnaround.
Yeah.
I think the next test starts on Wednesday or Thursday. So it'll be, they'll not change things too much. I think that top 7, depending on Ollie Pope's shoulder, because he picked up an injury fielding, the top 7 will probably remain the same. If Ollie Pope does need to have a break, then perhaps we'll see Root move up, Bairstow move up, and Fogues come in to take the gloves. That's what I would want to see anyway.
There's definitely going to be a major shake-up after this test match. Australia are in the driving seat. I think Australia is going to go 2-0 up. It's going to be very difficult for Australia to lose the next 3 test matches. So, I don't know. I think Australia is looking favourites to retain the Ashes. But we'll keep you up to date. Just last word on that, Jono. What's your final series scoreline now, given that it was 2-1 before in favour of England, with 2 drawn test matches?
It's hard to see England winning this test from here. We've lost too many wickets. And there's a lot of optimism out there, perhaps slightly misguided optimism, because Ben Stokes is at the crease and what he did at Headingley 4 years ago. Things have moved on a bit. And also, when Stokes was at the crease at Headingley 4 years ago overnight, there were a lot fewer runs to get. I think England still need 260, I think, in this chase. They were already 4 wickets down, with only Johnny Bairstow to come as the last established batter, and it's a long tail. So unless there's some sort of freak
There's a big
miracle,
100 from Stokes,
yeah,
Headingley 100.
there need to be 2 huge partnerships to get England home. And the way the Aussies have been bowling, while they don't have Nathan Lyon, the quicks have been on the money. Yeah, it's hard to see England winning this test. We know that they aren't playing for the draw. So, yeah, more than likely this will go 2-0 Australia. In terms of the rest of the series, I think the best I can hope for, really, being realistic, is probably a 2-2 draw again.
With one drawn test match.
It's hard to see England winning 3 on the bounce from here, but we never know. That's the.
But you're still hoping, but you're still betting against Australia. Why can't you say 3-2 Australia? Okay. All right, I guess you got to stay optimistic. Okay, let's talk about Mitchell Starc's catch.
So these are the MCC laws of cricket, which govern all cricket, certainly at an international level. Obviously, we know that club cricket's leagues just tinker with them sometimes, but these are the laws of cricket. And here is the important part where we're looking at the catch. The catch ends when a fielder obtains complete control over both the ball and his or her own movement. And that's the key thing here, is that while Mitch Starc had control of the ball,
But his movement
when he turned his hand over and he was still sliding and he grounded the ball, he's no longer in control of. He's not in control of himself, and therefore the catch cannot be ruled as legitimate because he's still moving while the ball is rubbing on the grass.
Okay, that's good. I read a different one. There was no mention of his or her movement. I think this is why, like, a lot of times when you actually throw the ball while you're in motion, it's not regarded as a catch. You have to have to restart your motion, celebratory movement.
Yeah, Herschel Gibbs is obviously the great example of that.
Semi-final of Steve Waugh.
Just finally on the note, normally when you take a catch, maybe not you, Harry, because obviously we know you've got hands like butter, but normally
back in my day, I've taken really good catches, okay?
You actually caught my first wicket as well. So normally when you take a catch, right, hands are facing up because that's where the ball, and especially when you're low to the ground, you get your fingers under it. So Starc has got his hands under the ball, but he knows his elbows are going to hit the ground. And when your elbows hit the ground and you
bounce up,
there's a good chance that ball bounces out. So by turning his hand over and rubbing it on the grass, he's guaranteed the ball isn't bouncing out. So
I don't think so. No, that's not the reason. Come on. I don't think he was thinking of that. I think he just became sloppy. So he's sliding, the sliding motion. And as I said, like, he could have slid that way, but he just had his hand that way, which is, again, that's sloppy at best. But yeah, you should be careful. So I think it had been ambiguous, but the rule that you showed, that's pretty clear, that if you haven't finished your initial movement, then that can't be classified or considered as a closed catch.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of anger on it, certainly in Australian circles online, saying how ridiculous it is. But as the law is written at the moment, that is the correct interpretation of the law. So it's not fair to blame the third umpire here. The third umpire, I think it was Murray Erasmus, has done the correct thing in interpreting that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for being with us. We will be back with the preview of the third test, which is going to be played at Headingley in about 4 days' time or 3 days' time. So just before that test match, we'll be back and hopefully we'll have the result by then. We would know. We'll have the result in the next, 3 or 4 hours. And that would be Australia 2-0 up. Okay, guys. Until next time. Ta-da.